Thanks for joining us. Welcome to Live Free, Ride Free. I'm your host, Rupert Isaacson, New York Times bestselling author of The Horse Boy and The Long Ride Home. Before I jump in with today's guest, I want to say a huge thank you to you, our audience, for helping to make this happen. I have a request. If you like what we do here, please give it a thumbs up, like, subscribe, tell a friend. It really, really helps us to make the progress. To find out about our certification courses, online video libraries, books, and other courses, please go to rupertisaacson.com. So now let's jump in. In this episode, you're going to see something absolutely unprecedented. It's a girl, Lina, who has been non-verbal until quite recently, who has become verbal and communicative through a letterboard. And you're going to see her spelling out the letters, both verbally and with her finger on her letterboard, and putting together the sentences to answer my podcast questions, which is extraordinary. As you can imagine, this is going to be a slightly laborious process at the beginning. So the first time she answers me, we will start off with the first one where we actually let her spell it all out laboriously. But in the interest of brevity, thereafter, we will cut ahead through that process to her answer. Otherwise, obviously, it will take a very long time to listen to, but it is absolutely extraordinary. And if anybody wants to listen to or see the full uncut version, we will put that up somewhere. So strap in, guys, because this is something, frankly, I have never experienced before. Someone going from non-verbal to verbal in this way. It's something incredibly beautiful. Welcome back to Live Free, Ride Free. I have a very, very old friend and dear friend, Helena Hjalmarsson here, and her daughter, Lina, who I've also known for a long time. Those of you who know me and my story know that I'm an autism dad, and that in the early years of my journey with my son, Rowan, he was nonverbal. And this changed through interactions with horses and nature and so forth. Helena has been one of my heroes for a long time. Swedish, living in New York, autism mum, and Lina, her daughter, also, we're so honored to have with us, have been a team and have gone through, you guys have gone to hell and back, and yet here you are. And yet, listen, listeners, these guys really have gone. There's just no way around it. So the fact that they're sitting here glowing and smiling in us, so I'm gonna ask you guys to introduce who you are, what you do, how you came to New York, how you came to this adventure where you are now. So over to you.
A L. What is the talk about until it's done? D Y D N Nar D D L.
Rig.
I read version toast on.
Yeah.
Y
Wrigley.
D really that's what has toast on.
I see.
C N T D D
Excited.
back in toast on. O
So.
B D
To be.
H D R D.
Yeah. I am already regally excited to be here.
Thank you so much. Well, the fact that I'm hearing you hear Lina speaking off the letterboard is something incredible, because in my past interactions with you, we haven't been able to have this kind of verbal contact. So I've had to guess if I'm getting it right. So it's amazing. At what point did this ability to communicate through the letterboard really start for you?
I T R D D L Y. I used to write for him toast on.
It really was.
S D
A
L Do N G
long
D N D
and
some toast
and
D X C
right.
U T 9 D
Pick it up a little.
T
Yes. You got
9 N G
Yeah.
P
You got it.
R O J D
Yeah.
S S.
Yeah. It really was a long and excruciating process.
can you tell us when it began and what were the main challenges?
Yeah. Nine. Nen.
Mm.
S. No. I surreal.
Yeah.
L. E.
In so many ways, I mastered the impossible. And it really did feel impossible. It was very hard for you to even sit. And,
Yeah.
you know, it was pretty dramatic session.
Yes.
Yeah.
What made you persevere with it, Lina?
Yeah.
Why not just stay inside your world? Why not just stay inside your bubble? Why go through this excruciating process?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yes. Nine. Nen.
Yeah.
N. L. D.
In my life, I always endure the impossible.
Nine.
Uh-huh.
Nen.
In.
L.
Uh-huh.
D.
Yeah.
W.
Uh-huh. In learning
T.
how to spell, I sat high on a cloud.
Yes.
So my question though is, with it being so hard to learn how to do this,
Yeah.
why learn? Why not just stay inside your bubble?
I think if, sitting high on a cloud means happiness, right?
Yeah.
So, it just made her happy to be able to.
Okay.
Okay.
Fantastic. All right. Here's another question, Lina. Before you were communicating through this letterboard,
Yeah.
were you communicating in other ways? And if so, how?
Okay. I,
N.
N. Skip the in so many ways and go straight on. Mhm.
R. Want me to just have you a slice of toast on?
Mhm. In real time, I saw an incredible opportunity. You want to elaborate a little? Or?
No.
No? Okay. Okay.
Okay. So do you still or also communicate in other ways?
Oh, yeah, that's right. Mm-hmm.
Yes. No. D. S.
Wishes.
I.
Yeah, so in seeing how a real way that I can say what I think, in saturating all other languages, you're going to have to explain this, but
First, you have celebration to bake some more on.
in saturating all other languages,
Yes.
just like one
Yes.
language. Yeah. But so are you then saying that you did have other languages before? Okay, and I think that what Rupert is interested in is, can you describe any of that?
First,
Or you don't want to elaborate on that?
First, you want to speak some more celebration on.
Yeah. So what do you think?
Nine.
Mm-hmm.
Nine.
I think Rupert loves the other languages.
Well, that is very astute.
Yeah.
So I've come about it,
Yes,
I
think
suppose, the opposite.
I'm
that-
talking today.
Hey, let's listen to Wasi.
So
Yeah.
I, growing up,
Yeah.
had a very private language with,
Yes.
one could say, God or the divine, as a very small boy. And I always, to some degree, could talk to animals. And I could always, to some degree, feel the landscape and nature talking to me. But as one gets older, this gets quieter. And then I fell in love with words and became a writer and a wordsmith, you could say. And now increasingly, let's say I love both. I value the ability to speak as we're speaking in real time. And I know that you're also writing, Lina, and I'd love you to share with us some of what you've been writing. But I am also interested, yes, of course, and I do love, you're right, these other languages, because I think this is something that we need to know. And so people like you who have had access to those other languages in a very real way, I think have a lot to teach us, because I think we all could access them if we're shown how. And we probably know them when we're very, very small. And then little by little, the noise of the world takes them away. So you're right. I do love those other languages, but I also love this language that we're sharing now. And I really value your mastering of it. in those other languages that you are so right that I love, what can you share with us who are stuck in this type of language? What can we learn from those other languages, and can we learn to speak them and hear them? We neurotypical people.
What do you think?
Nej.
A very long question, sorry.
Nej. Yes.
Yes.
Men.
It is not for me to say if other people on the spectrum talks in other languages.
Yes.
Right.
And
In
M. Y.
things.
D.
Mhm.
D.
Me. Did you get that? That
Can you put that together for me?
yeah. In the past, I saw things about other people that was overwhelming to me.
Okay.
Ness. T.
I still see things about
First.
others' emotion.
Version.
Yeah, I still see things about others' emotion that is almost comical to me.
Almost what to me?
Comical.
Comical.
Yeah.
Almost. And
Can you tell us a little more about that or what?
First you want to be having black chocolate on.
Uh-huh.
Yes. First you go on the red car.
Mhm. I see
Yes.
how incredibly intensely, and then I lost you.
And Y.
I see how incredibly intensely my not so rallied mom wants to help me. It's like a little bit sort of hard to understand it, but I think if I'm guessing, you're saying I'm very intense and wanting to help you. Yeah.
First.
I'm not sure mothers have a choice in that. I'm not sure parents have a choice in that. I think as soon as you
More chocolate on.
become a parent, you have an intense desire to
Black
help your
chocolate on.
child. What can you do? Yeah.
Right, exactly.
D.
Nej, inte.
I.
Yeah, so I guess you're saying that it's okay. She can see the
Makes you
love.
feel loved.
Yeah.
Yeah, I followed that.
Yeah.
That's lovely. Do you speak to or hear from nature?
Nine.
I
S. D. D.
see.
H.
I kind of forgot what you were saying. Can you say it in a simpler way?
First some teacups in the sink.
Uh-huh. You're saying you want to be on this planet, and
Yes.
what else then? I
I. Ness.
see incredible beauty in this you say on, but in this world. Mm-hmm. Other
Ness.
planets. Am I to realize real life
Yes.
or other planets? Do
Yes.
you have an answer to that?
S.
This
P. L. D.
planets. Uh-huh.
Yes.
And what do you think you're going to be doing on this planet? But why are you here?
Nine.
I think I'm here to share my real feeling of love. So you are here. Are you taking a break? So she says, I think I'm here to share my real feeling of love. And then there's more, and I don't know where we're going with it. But
Well, in terms of that sharing, I know that Lina's been writing. So would it be all right to read and share some of Lina's writings that are sharing that love?
what do you think? Would you be up for that?
Yes. No.
So I want to share needing to muster the courage. Mm-hmm. The courage.
T. No.
To align with this planet. I still want to share needing to align with this planet. I think that what Lina is saying is that, that she knows all the other stuff, she can, she has traveled all around, but that she feels that the main task right now is to be on this planet, to be here, to not necessarily dabble too much in the mystical. That's for her. Like for me, being in that other space, to have that kind of connection, that saves me. But for Lina, she feels like different,
Yeah.
it's so obvious to her. You know what I mean?
Yes.
It's so obvious that stuff that she wants to try to be here.
Yeah.
Is that correct, Lina? Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. You can add something, or is that good?
T.
In that case, would you?
Y.
Okay, when you're ready.
U. D.
So true. Yeah. Can I share
Brush.
what?
Brush it with your toothpaste.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can I share with you that what we were
Yeah.
talking with Malidoma about?
Yeah.
Would that be okay?
Yeah.
Okay, because you were like, what were you? Were kind of very young. We met with this
So
West African
you will brush it with your toothpaste.
shaman,
Yeah.
and he was saying that Lina, he was doing divinations for us, for all of us individually, and saying that Lina was just, she could read a book and go all the way back to when it was written, and the intention before it was even written, and sort of follow it back wherever, and just kind of he was telling me also that
you brush it with some
I should just ask
with some yellow toothpaste.
yeah I should just ask as many questions as I possibly can to really try to learn as much as I can for as long as
she
is willing to share it. But I think maybe there's like different periods of life where now you're trying to get into college, and that he was also saying that Lina was initiated too early, and so it was too overwhelming, not ready, not and in fact Malidoma himself had that similar experience when he was little, and he lived in the village of Dagara, and he saw one of these dwarfs in the bush, and his mom said, "Oh no, you are never going to come with me to pick up wood anymore," because he wasn't ready for it,
Yeah.
And so Lina was trying to like really be here and not, because at night she travels and she can't help it. But take a break. Yes, but for me, that's the only reason for living, is to be connected with these things.
Well, I suppose that it's so interesting, is always want what you haven't got, so people like you and me who are stuck here in the otherworldly experiences and altered states of consciousness and spiritual experiences, we crave them. I suppose if that's your everyday reality, what you end up craving a cheeseburger and
exactly
and a heavy metal concert, and I suppose from a divine point of view, there's really no difference between the cheeseburger and the heavy metal concert.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's a good point. That's a great point.
But all that, for those of us that are down here suffering among the cheeseburgers and heavy metal concerts,
yeah, exactly.
which also include things like wars and attacking our own planet, there's clearly a need, I think, for being led, I think, not just open to, but led by the voices of people who are aligned with that spiritual realm that can then report back to us and, basically maybe give us some quite clear instructions. When she comes back, I would love to hear perhaps what her instructions to we the neurotypical people sort of in the driving seat of the car, as you think we are. What her advice for us is, but also while she's out of the room, do you think she would mind if you read and shared some of what she's been writing?
Not at all.
Would you just share with us as it comes what you think is the best stuff?
So Lina was talking about the idea that she's here to learn how to love, right? And I think so. This is something about that, and it's like a little poem. A love meaning to burst. I so think a love meaning to burst is a love meaning to level with all that is real. I think a love meaning to burst is a love meaning to test our insensitive souls. I think a love meaning to burst is alive and meaning to indiffer and react and rearrange and resolve.
Can you read that again?
Sure,
I think
yeah.
that bears hearing twice. And
Yeah.
this, can you write down? 'Cause there's so much amazing meat in there. I was like,
Yeah.
and then you went, and
Right.
then you went on to the next one. Yeah, now half speed, please.
And actually, I think that it sort of relates to what she was trying to say right now in a way.
Yeah,
Like we should be
absolutely.
hibbling and dabbling with things here, you know.
Mm-hmm.
I so think a love meaning to burst is a love meaning to level with all that is real. I think a love meaning to burst is a love meaning to test our insensitive souls. I think a love meaning to burst is alive and meaning to indiffer and react and rearrange and resolve.
And resolve.
Mhm.
Bursting to resolve.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what the context of that poem was when she wrote it?
I don't quite remember. That's a good question.
And is that a recent one?
There's another one that's kind of funny. Should I read
Go on.
it?
Yeah, please. Yeah.
And I know very well this context because I was going nuts. So it's an untitled poem. Holding myself out of a hole, I race my own crazy thoughts in the hope that I will be able to see myself soaked in seeing the seeing, soaked in a less harsh world, salvaged by the wary tones of my always insane mother. It's pretty cool.
Beautiful.
I think.
Soaked and salvaged. Okay,
Yeah.
one more time. You got these bear repetition, please.
Yeah. Okay.
Read it again and read it even slower.
Yeah. Untitled. Holding myself out of a hole. I race.
Self out of a hole.
Yeah. And this is like a while ago, and we had some crazy scenes. Some really nutty, like everybody's falling apart. And Lina, not at least Lina, and me too. Holding myself out of a hole, I race my own crazy thoughts.
I race my own crazy thoughts.
Yeah, I race, I think.
I raise them.
Yeah, I uprise them.
Pulling myself out of the hole, I raise my own crazy.
Yeah. That was what it was. RAISE.
Okay. Go on.
In the hope that I will be able to see myself soaked in the seeing, soaked in a less harsh world, salvaged by the wary tones of my always insane mother.
It's so beautiful. And knowing you as I know you, I mean, I know that one of your great strengths.
You know that I'm insane.
Well, I mean it as the highest of compliments. I've seen you pushed to the wall.
Right.
On so many occasions. So for those listeners who are not autism parents, the experience, there's a lot of talk, quite rightly, about how difficult and traumatic it is for the children and the people who experience the condition. But what is not talked about, and probably should be talked about, is the trauma that we go through as parents, trying blind with, it's like they put a blindfold on you, tie your arm behind your back, and now tell you to climb Everest while liberating a city using an old eaten sausage,
Right.
And we got no choice. We kind of go, oh, okay.
Exactly.
And little by little we figure out, but it does send us a bit nuts. But then it goes, that nuttiness is what then allows one to break wide open.
Yeah.
Yeah, people, the cliches, see outside the box. But, you can't see outside the box until you get, God puts a boot to your ass and kicks you out there. And then you're like, well, I want back in the box, please. And I was like, well, no, sorry. Then you look around and go, well, It is actually quite interesting out here.
Yeah.
But I've really seen you suffer and never give up and always be very intentional about the road to a parallel road of functionality and inspiration at the same time. So not saying, I don't want you to change me. I don't want you to stop being who you are. And at the same time, I have to give you the tools to survive in this world. And that tightrope
Yeah.
is not an easy one. So that poem, what I love about it is that it really shows that you are seen. Because
Yeah.
you know, I started this podcast saying, you know, that you're one of my heroes, and you really are. And at the same time, it sounds like you're Lina's too. And I love that, because particularly when someone isn't verbal. I mean, the Lina I'm seeing today is extraordinary. Here's another thing for the listeners and viewers.
Yeah.
I have met Lina quite a few times, and I have never, ever, ever had this interaction with her.
Right.
Never had a conversation. I've never had this back and forth. It's, you know, part of me is trying not to jump out of my chair
Yeah.
with noises, because, you know, but another is my mind is blown.
Yeah.
But Helena, you've obviously helped bring her here, and this is just beautiful. So to read a poem in which you see the value of your craziness as to how it's a lifesaver. Your craziness is a lifesaver. Because if you're not a bit crazy, you don't see how to make the raft out of old diapers and
That's right.
you know what I mean, and a thrown away toothbrush, and transform that into a space shuttle, you know, while never sleeping, and you know, yeah. I love that. Can you share another one with us, please?
Sure, certainly.
Such a treat.
This is not a poem. This is more like, okay, well, you want form or sort of like?
I want anything.
Okay. Miss First, she's talking about telepathy. And this is another poem. It's called Incisions. And the other one is called Soaring. And here she's talking about the paradox of autism. That might be interesting. You want to hear?
I want all of it. All of the above, please.
Okay. So then I'm going to, we'll continue with the poems then. Incisions, hollering at the moon, hollering at the sun, hollering at the earth. I align with all. I align with everything. I am seeing my life transform. I'm seeing all the suffering that I have, I'm seeing all the suffering I have endured, eclipsing into a tentative incision of sawdust and sun. In mountains and ocean is my transformation. In real yearning and real gestations is my salvation.
Cool. I guess the power of suffering. The value of suffering.
Right.
More. Keep going.
Okay. Yeah. I'm soaring. In real life, I'm a soaring eagle. Need I always indicate the soaring truth? Is my life a tentative, talking, tedious, ageless havoc? All I am is a loving eagle without wings. I am ahead of pestering people. I am ahead of ignorance. I am ahead of seeing yearnings without end.
I am ahead of seeing yearnings without end. I wouldn't mind being ahead of that.
Yeah, me neither.
Okay, go on.
So that was a little bit of that. And then, so Lina's talking about paradox of autism, or...
paradox of autism.
Yeah, let's do that. Lina? Helene? Okay. I see autism as the most profound inspiration that has ever existed. It is also the most profound challenge. I think it's so hard. And I just think that it's so important that she's writing about this, because a lot of us are either we just see a lot of people see just the beauty and it's all about inclusion or whatever. And then the others see just the sort of the medical issues and, all that shit.
And the challenges, the very real challenges.
Yeah, exactly. And but there's no integration. And I think that Lina, that's why I feel like the book that she's writing, My Life on the Planet, that is really important, because she's talking about all of it, both the challenges and the bliss,
Yes.
And
as you know, if you followed any of my work, I'm an autism dad, and we have a whole career before this podcast in helping people with neurodivergence, either who are professionals in the field. Are you a therapist? Are you a caregiver? Are you a parent? Or are you somebody with neurodivergence? When my son, Rowan, was diagnosed with autism in 2004, I really didn't know what to do. So I reached out for mentorship, and I found it through an amazing adult autistic woman who's very famous, Dr. Temple Grandin. And she told me what to do. And it's been working so amazingly for the last 20 years that not only is my son basically independent, but we've helped countless thousands of others reach the same goal, working in schools, working at home, working in therapy settings. If you would like to learn this cutting-edge neuroscience-backed approach, it's called Movement Method. You can learn it online. You can learn it very, very simply. It's almost laughably simple. The important thing is to begin. Let yourself be mentored, as I was, by Dr. Grandin, and see what results can follow. Go to this website, newtrailslearning.com. Sign up as a gold member. Take the online Movement Method course. It's in 40 countries. Let us know how it goes for you. We really want to know. We really want to help people like me, people like you out there live their best life, to live free, ride free, see what happens.
Anyway, I see autism as the most profound inspiration that has ever existed. It is also the most profound challenge. I think it's so hard for people to incorporate the paradox of autism. Is autism the love for people's soul? Or is it the excruciating challenge for the individual and his or her family? I think it's both. I think that life with someone on the severe end of the spectrum is a life full of suffering and a life full of bliss. In my own experience, as an individual with very severe autism, I see the suffering being a lot stronger than the bliss. In my life, I also have yearnings for a life without autism. I see how autism, my OCD and anxiety destroys so much for me. If I was free of if I was free of that, I wouldn't have autism.
Can you read that again?
Totally.
Because there's some questions I'd like to pick up on that I could ask. Okay. We get paper.
Coming back. So,
Yeah.
Cool.
All right. Kick off again, please.
Yeah. So, Lina, so we're reading about that stuff about paradox of autism. And so I'm just going to reread it. I see autism as the most profound inspiration that has ever existed. It is also the most profound challenge. I think it's so hard for people to incorporate the paradox of autism. Is autism the love for people's soul? Or is it the most excruciating challenge for the individual and his or her family? I think it's both. I think that life with someone on the severe end of the spectrum is a life full of suffering and a life full of bliss. In my own experience as an individual with very severe autism, I see the suffering being a lot stronger than the bliss. In my life, I also have yearnings for a life without autism. I see how autism, my OCD and anxiety, destroys so much for me. If I was free of that, I wouldn't have autism.
Okay.
So,
I've got 3 questions.
you ready?
Yeah.
All right. You talk about the bliss. From the inside, as an autistic person, what is the bliss of autism?
It is.
O. Then G.
Okay. It's ongoingly incredible seeing an alignment with one's soul. Can you say that in simple terms, Lin?
Yes.
As direct as you can get. It's hard for Lina to be like rather
Yeah,
direct.
Well, we have time.
So try to go straight to you.
Nah.
In my life, I hollow out to the universe the love I feel. Are you saying that you just feel that love so strong it almost makes you want to shout? Is that what you're saying? Okay. So that love is very strong.
Okay.
And Lina, let's say
That's
in many situations that is always there inside, no matter what craziness is happening, that it's always there. Does that somewhere, in there?
okay. I have a second question. That's the bliss. This being able to sort of exist in and dance in this universal love that is life. Okay. Now you also talk about the suffering. How can we suffer less, Lina?
I think I'm suffering now less now in my life that I am anticipating create.
THD.
She's suffering less now because she can anticipate the moments of calm and create them.
Okay. How do you create them?
I
D.
see so many reasons to be happy.
Right.
I see so
M. U. C. H.
much love.
Here is another question. If you are your mother, if you are the parent of a person like yourself, how can your mother suffer less? How can somebody in that position as guardian and caretaker, but also who doesn't want to get in the way and wants to nurture, how could we, the autism parents, suffer less?
Then K.
I think
Then no.
I think my soul mom is not suffering now. But if I did, what would you tell me?
That's what you tell me.
I think I see real soul in my aligned mom.
Yeah.
Yes, I am doing pretty well, but right now. But you have seen me in many different places, and we have both gone totally nuts. So, what would you say to somebody, or what did you say to me? I don't remember when I was totally tripping, and what or to parents who feel like they just can't take it and they're going crazy with everything. What should be done? What should be told? What can help us when we
First. H. L.
Okay. So I think, Helena, needing to shout and be pissed is a lovely thing. So would you say that to other parents too, that they should shout and let their emotions out?
Yes.
Yeah, you see, I'm reading Malidoma's autobiography, and he's talking about grief and how villagers, when they're grieving, his grandfather died and everybody was grieving, and they took 3 days to do it, and shouting and screaming and running away sometimes, and then stopping, because when the grief overtook them and they ran down the road, and then at some point, and they had people around them, the ones who grieved the most had people who watched them to help them not to be totally overcome. But that whole idea that in the Western society we just always put a lock on our emotion, we just we get passive aggressive, we just try to control ourselves to every degree, that is some kind of incredible virtue,
First and blue.
instead of sometimes just if you have excruciating.
First your blue. Cucumber with you.
Yes, go get that.
Yeah.
You can do it. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
I think,
Yeah.
I was also talking to Elsa about this, that,
Also being your other daughter.
Yeah, that's Lina's younger sister, and sometimes, you know, we were all like basically feel it was a madhouse. Then the beauty and the love and the, you know, sense of connection and peace when everybody had tried to express what they are feeling, the despair, you know, fully, and feeling that everybody accepts, you know, what they are experiencing, you know, that I think there's something to that. I think that helps us go fresh into the next day, you know. And I think that's something in the Western society, we don't know how to do that. We just don't.
If you made it this far into the podcast, then I'm guessing you're somebody that, like me, loves to read books about not just how people have achieved self-actualization, but particularly about the relationship with nature, spirituality, life, the universe, and everything. And I'd like to draw your attention to my books. If you would like to read the story of how we even arrived here, perhaps you'd like to check out the 2 New York Times bestsellers, The Horseboy and The Long Ride Home, and come on an adventure with us and see what engendered, what started Live Free, Ride Free. And before we go back to the podcast, also check out The Healing Land, which tells the story of my years spent in the Kalahari with the Sun, Bushmen, hunter-gatherer people there, and all that they taught me and mentored me in, and all that I learned. Come on that adventure with me.
Well, sure, because I think there's 2 things. One is that takes tribe, that takes community, right?
Yeah.
We're talking about, you know,
That's true.
someone is there
Anybody.
not to be too overcome by the grief, or that requires those people to exist and to be there and to be available, right? We in our society do no longer live in that tribal way, and you know, it's seen as a sign of weakness to reach out for help. But I think those of us who are autism parents know that if we don't have that kind of community, we can't go on. And that's why how people like you and I have found each other, and you know, that we've created that community, I think you could say, even when we're long distance from each other.
Right.
There is a question, a very practical question that comes to mind. If Lina, say, feels that it's a beautiful thing if you express your craziness and your grief and your despair and your overwhelm, there is, of course, when an autistic child is very young, a fear that might freak them out and scare them and overwhelm them.
Yeah.
How does one, as an autism parent, tread that line?
Yeah.
Having to just sort of constantly contain and control yourself. Because when someone is very, very young, you know, how do we do that? How could we express those big raw emotions without traumatizing the child? I'd like to know the thoughts on that.
Yeah. I mean, I think that there's also instinct involved in this. I mean, you know, you wouldn't, you know, shout at a little child. It's just
No,
something.
not shout at, but you might, you know, if your overwhelming your grief makes you shout at the planet or God or whatever, you know, how do you express that? Without
I mean, I think it's a little different. You know, you can almost instinctively feel, you know, even when Lina was like a young teenager, it wasn't really
First blue cucumber with you.
Yeah, you can go and get the cucumber and then bring it back.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally. It's not the same thing as when she's like closer to, you know, and be beyond, you know. It's really now that more than anything, like, you know, this last bout of mycoplasma, where Lina was, you know, now she's 21 and a half, and there's a new bout of mycoplasma, and it comes with a lot of crazy OCD and a lots of acting out and loss of control and, you know, anxiety. It's just really brutal, OCD. And so then, you know, this was just a time when, you know, I really put the Lord down in a way that I have never done, and not eloquently, but very, very decisively. And I felt actually that Lina, it really, really helped Lina. And I you know, it just calmed her down.
By that stage, would she say she was ready for that?
she was ready. She was so ready to basically see me, not as that one that's always helping her, but also as a human being,
Yeah.
Which she and I have been talking a lot about, like that, at a certain point she complained, you just talk about yourself and your own needs now suddenly all the time. I'm tired of it. But that said, yeah,
Much
well,
even loud. Well,
I
much
have a little
ferocious.
time to, make up for, don't you think? Because I've been nagging about that all the time, and but I felt that I absolutely it is now or this is not going to work. This ship is going to sink.
Yeah.
And actually now after that is we've had such beautiful time, and I feel like there's just more equality between us, and she's really taking me into account, much more. And I don't know, it's just I feel good because being able to, how it's the anxiety and the rage comes from feeling like you're helpless. You cannot actually push against this situation or this person or whatever. But if you feel that you have the right, then it's very calming. It's just really quite different.
The right to express. Yeah, that pain.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But also like a kid on the spectrum, 3 or 4 or 5, it's a very different feeling. You don't feel anger. You just feel like, what is happening to my child?
Stress.
You know? And when they're 13, now you're feeling like, no, you can't fucking hit me.
Yes.
So different, and it's different all different,
Can you tell us a bit about you just referred to mycoplasma. Can you not a lot of people will not know what that is and behavior. Can you a bit about 1, 2, 3 on it?
Totally. It's an autoimmune disorder. There's pandas, that comes from strep, right? And
Pandas and pans, which is a type of streptococcal infection
exactly.
that can hit the brain, and
Exactly.
it's people with autism seem to be particularly prone to it. For
Exactly.
people who don't know,
There you go.
and often get it around adolescence, and it can turn people into effectively almost violent, let's say.
Yeah.
But it can be treated if they catch it. So
Yeah.
that's pandas and pans for those
Yeah.
adult listeners who don't know what it is. If you have an autistic kid and they're approaching adolescence, do get them checked out for pandas and pans.
Totally.
Okay,
Totally.
but
And
mycoplasma, talk to us about
and Lyme also. Yeah.
Lyme. Okay.
I think that, and you should have somebody who knows how to test Lyme.
Okay.
It's, you can test Lyme until you're blue in the face and you see nothing until you go to somebody who's actually able to.
How do you identify that person?
I think that very often naturopaths actually have a better handle on what blood tests to order than, for instance, a regular medical doctor, I have to say. Yeah. Then, of course, good medical doctors, I'm not saying that, but, definitely more naturopaths are better able to order much more subtle and, extensive blood tests than most medical doctors.
Okay. And then talk to us about mycoplasma. What is it?
So that is actually the PANS, actually. That is
the PANS. Okay, that is the PANS.
And that is a bacteria, and everybody has mycoplasma. It's a very small bacteria, and it does not have a cell wall, so it can sit latent in somebody's system for years, and then suddenly flare up. Suddenly there's too high of a count, and they are super tricky, and they can create OCD like crazy. The first time Lina had mycoplasma, all she said was red and black all night long with increasing intensity. It was like the worst torture. You know how in prison, people get these drops of water on their head. This was like the same thing like that, but just red and black, like increasing. It's just insane. I tried to then introduce green, and just little by little. But then we did all kinds of things, including very strict keto diet to not feed the bacteria at all. That plasma was so incredibly intense that we had to do antibiotics for a while when she was 13. But now, this time around, we did antibiotics because she had Lyme also. kids on the spectrum and young adults on the spectrum, they always get everything, particularly the autoimmune.
There seems to be a deficiency somewhere in the gut bacteria that just lets these things in.
Yeah, and or a toxic overload, whatever you want. Yeah. But so now we did antibiotica to address the Lyme, but for the mycoplasma now we are working with a naturopath. His name is Dr. Ingalls. He's incredible.
Dr. Ingalls.
Ingalls, yeah.
Ingalls, where's he based?
He's in California.
Okay.
Yeah.
Maybe I could have him on the show.
He's incredible. You should. He knows a lot about autism.
How did you find him?
Another incredible woman, her name is Mary Coyle, and she's a homotoxicologist. We worked with her for many years because Lina had seizures, and it was because of all this. So she helped us detox in a soft and gentle way, not a harsh way, So then at some point the seizures stopped. So
what did the naturopath attribute the seizures to?
The naturopath, he didn't work with seizures because we worked with Mary.
But Mary Coyle, what did she, to the toxicologist, what did she attribute seizures to?
Toxic overload.
But toxic is a wide term.
Yeah. Well, in Lina's case, we have found that she has an overload of mercury and aluminum, and those are the main thing. The aluminum actually is the biggest culprit for Lina. And
which of course kills brain cells like crazy if it crosses the blood-brain barrier. Right. What do you think got all that aluminum into her system?
I think that it is kind of like a lot of different factors, and I think that the triggering factor was her second MMR vaccine.
Okay.
And it could be also the DBT vaccines. We can't know for sure. But with the MMR vaccine, the second time she took it at 3.5, she had her first seizure right after. She lost all of her speech.
Okay.
So, and it's not that I'm against vaccines, but I do think we should just check out and see what's in them. We shouldn't preserve them with toxins that we then inoculate young people with who have not yet a mature immune system that can cope with these things.
Right.
And I think so. I think that
yes, maybe to have safer products, or with a bit more oversight.
Yeah, with a lot of oversight, maybe more oversight than any other medications. I mean, these are kids we're talking about.
We can pray for that universe to happen.
Right.
Okay, I have another question for Lina. When at the end of that last text that you read me, she said, if I didn't have the OCD, I seem to remember that's what she said, then I wouldn't have the autism.
Exactly, yeah. I knew you were going to ask about that.
So here's my question for her.
Yeah.
This is as if I'm speaking to Lina, and perhaps she can answer this. If
Lina.
you didn't have autism, what would you have? What would you have?
Yeah, exactly. Let me go and get her.
Yeah.
Lina, she has a question for you. So, Rupert, can you repeat that again?
Yes. In the text that your mum read me, that you had written, at the end of it, it said, if you didn't have the OCD, you wouldn't have the autism. So my question is, if you didn't have the autism, what would you have?
Yes. She said, if I didn't have my OCD and anxiety destroys so much.
That's right.
If I was free of that, I wouldn't have anxiety. Yeah.
I wouldn't have autism.
Yeah, exactly. Yes.
So what would you have? What would you be?
Yeah. What would you be? What would you have? I think I would be really a lovely, but you're already a lovely young woman. But I think I would be really a lovely young woman.
Okay, but Lina, you clearly are a lovely young woman. So, I mean, I think by anybody's standards, you're a lovely young woman. So, I think do you feel you would have any?
Yeah.
I don't know what's the word. Condition, quirk, if you didn't have the anxiety and the OCD, or like, what would you say I wouldn't have autism, or do you mean I wouldn't have the negative symptoms of autism?
Uh-huh. I think I would myself. I see. Joy. I think I would myself talk about incredible joy and happiness.
Do you think that day's coming? Do you feel that day's coming?
Yes, my seeing this, you see it. I think my seeing it is less important. I think what is important, Helena and Rupert, is that you see it. Yeah.
Do you want to expand on that?
Yeah, can you expand on that? I think the reason that I'm saying that is that I really am happy, and I think could want that for everyone.
Wonderful. Beautiful. Thank you. Is there any piece of writing, Lina, seeing as we got you here now, is there a particular piece of writing that you would like to share with the people watching this and listening to this?
What do you think, Lina? I don't know. We have, actually, Lina, we don't have that much more here. But there's one thing that I don't know, Lina, if you feel like sharing the stuff you just wrote. This was like a little practice test. Lina wrote something else today because she was doing the testing for the placement test for the college.
Which college is she placing for?
It's the Passaic in New Jersey. That's where she's going to this school.
Fantastic.
Yeah. So, and she did so amazing. It was like 4 hours just straight.
Amazing.
I think that's why you are a little fry right now. Lina.
Yeah, I'm not surprised. And we don't have to go on much longer with this one, because I was thinking there's so much here. I would actually very much like to pick up with you guys for a part 2 and a part 3. So we don't have to exhaust you.
No.
But I'm just thinking, here we are, we're sort of at the hour and a half mark.
Yeah.
Perhaps this might be a point to take a break. But before we take the break, perhaps would you just share that piece of writing, and then we can leave that with the list, and then we'll, with your permission, we'll come back to follow up.
What do you think?
What's that?
I think that sounds amazing.
Okay. Cool.
Okay. So that's
Hear it.
Yeah. There was another one. Okay. All right. So which one should we pick? So, and maybe you can help us, Rupert. She did 2 practice tests because we were just trying to prepare, right? And she has certain times it has to be like an introduction, and then it has to be like a little bit of bulk of work. It has to be within a certain time frame, and then a little bit of a summary, right? So that one you wrote about choosing one issue you would prioritize if you were president of the United States. And the other one explained the value of diversity to you. Which one?
I want to hear from President Lina.
Okay. Yes.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
I know where I'm casting my vote. Yeah.
Okay. Are you cool with that? All right. Good. In so many ways, every president has failed the American people. In seeing how someone fails, we learn about how to succeed. I think one of the biggest failures in American history is how we fail to see the yearnings of the weary poor. I think a society that secludes some people from the things that others take for granted is a really sad society. In my life, I have everything I could ever ask for. I see how privileged I am. I have food and clothes and a nice house to live in. I have books and computer and seeing of many material things. If I didn't have these things, I would not be comfortable. I'm sure most poor people would do almost anything so that they could have the things I have. In seeing the inequalities in this country, I wish we had a president that wanted it to change. I think the American people would love such a president. Seeing a real and compassionate soul is what opens us up to incredible generosity. A love that includes everyone is what this country needs. I so believe that a compassionate president is the most important need in America. Such a leader would restore this country and its people. In real transformation, everyone benefits. It's a long road to restore this country, but a road forward is the only road available. I center my thoughts on being able to see incredible transformation of this land when we elect a compassionate president that serves the needs of the poor as well as the wealthy.
Beautiful words to live by.
Yeah.
When you begin your presidential campaign, Lina, I will
Yeah.
casting my vote for you
Yeah.
and canvassing on your behalf. But you're absolutely dead right. And, you know, sadly, of course, a lot of the people that are attracted to the job of being president, unfortunately, are not such compassionate people. But from time to time, we get one.
Yeah.
From time to time, we get one. And I think you're right. I mean, you're absolutely dead right, basically. You're dead right. And it wouldn't matter which political party that person came from.
No, it wouldn't.
Passion is compassion.
Yeah.
Lina, thank you. Thank you for coming and doing this, especially after you sat that 4 exams.
Yes.
And I'm just blown away in all the interactions that I've had with you. I've never been able to sit with you like this and converse. It makes me so happy. You've gladdened my heart in a way that it's hard for me to express, because in my job, the really part of the reason for this podcast is I, as you know, campaign and work to help people like my son and people like you and so on. And I've been led by autistic people from the get-go. It was never my dream to do this. And when I first got the diagnosis with my son, I knew that I didn't know what to do. So I knew I needed to be led by autistic people because they were the only people who could understand the condition. And that's why I made contact with Dr. Temple Grandin, who's autistic, and got mentorship from her from the get-go. But we still need more mentorship. And if things are going to change for the better, people like you, people like my son, need to mentor us.
Yeah.
So perhaps in the next podcast that we do, with your permission, I might pose some of those questions, like what could and should we do better? Perhaps in the interim, you could ponder those questions with no pressure. Just see what bubbles up. Because honestly, Lina, I need your mentorship. I do. If I don't get guidance from you and those like you, I'm lost. So I'm just incredibly grateful that you're sharing this with us. And you could have stayed in your world and not come forward like this, and you'd have been just as beautiful and it would have been just as valid. But as you said, you know, the fact that you did go through this excruciating process to learn how to do this really is for the benefit of all. And that was a compassionate act of yours to do that.
That's a good point.
Yeah. So I'm grateful. Just want to say that. All right, my friends, shall we wrap it for today and come back to it in a few weeks, perhaps?
Okay.
Is that okay? Shall I do that?
Yes.
All right, until next time.
I hope you enjoyed today's conversation as much as I did. If you did, please help us to make more. Please like, subscribe, tell a friend, give us a thumbs up. If you'd like to support us on Patreon, please go to my website, rupertisaacson.com. And if you'd like to find out about our certification courses with autism, education, horsemanship, everyday shamanism, there's a whole range of cool stuff. Putting a show together like this is not an easy task. If you'd like to support us, please consider going to our Patreon page and showing us some love there. Even the smallest donation, it really helps us to keep the good content coming. So go to rupertisaacson.com and click on the Patreon link. Not to mention our excellent merch. Please go to our shop and check out some of our really cool rock and roll themed merch, t-shirts, hoodies, all that sort of thing. rupertisaacson.com, it's all there. I can't wait for our next guest and also to meet you there. In the meantime, remember, live free, ride free.